There's a specific kind of tired that doesn't come from not sleeping enough. It's the tired that comes from having the same conversation in your head 17 times before noon, from replaying something someone said to you 3 days ago, from running through every possible outcome of a decision you haven't even made yet. You're not physically exhausted. You're mentally worn down in a way that's hard to explain to someone who hasn't felt it. And the strangest part, you already know you're doing it. You can see the loop. You just can't seem to stop it. If that sounds familiar, this video is for you. Not because I'm gonna hand you a 5-step plan to clear your mind, but because I think there's something worth understanding first. Something that most of the stop overthinking advice completely skips over. I spend a lot of time thinking about the way the mind works, not in a clinical, detached way, but in the way that comes from being genuinely curious about why people feel what they feel and why knowing better doesn't always mean doing better. And one of the things I've noticed is this. We spend so much energy trying to stop overthinking, fix overthinking, or shame ourselves out of overthinking, that we never stop to ask what it's actually doing there. That question changes everything. Here's what most people don't realize about overthinking. It didn't start as a problem. It started as a solution. At some point, probably earlier than you remember, your mind learned that thinking ahead kept you safe. If you could anticipate what might go wrong, you could prepare for it. If you could replay what happened, you might figure out what you did wrong so it wouldn't happen again. If you could think through every possible outcome before acting, maybe you could avoid pain, rejection, embarrassment, or failure. That's not weakness, that's intelligence. That's a mind trying to protect you. The problem isn't that your brain developed this strategy. The problem is that it got really, really good at it, and now it applies it to everything, including things that aren't actually dangerous, including decisions that don't need 17 rounds of analysis, including moments where you're lying in bed at 11 p.m. and there is genuinely nothing left to solve. Your nervous system is actually doing this for a reason. It just hasn't gotten the signal that the danger has passed. Think of it this way. Imagine you grew up in a house where things were unpredictable. Maybe it wasn't dramatic. Maybe it was just subtle. A parent whose mood you could never quite read. A home where you had to be careful about what you said or how you said it. An environment where making the wrong move had real consequences. In that environment, hypervigilance made sense. Scanning for threats, replaying conversations, pre-planning your responses, all of it was adaptive. It helped you navigate something genuinely uncertain. Now imagine that same wiring inside an adult brain, sitting in a quiet apartment, trying to decide whether to send an email. The strategy didn't change. Only the environment did. And that's the thing about overthinking. For a lot of people, it's not a cognitive bad habit. It's a nervous system response that never got updated. This changes how you see the problem. Because if overthinking is a protection strategy, then trying to force yourself to stop thinking doesn't actually address what's underneath it. You're not broken, you're not weak-willed, you're not too much. You're running an old program in a new context. And here's where it gets interesting. The reason most people can't just think their way out of overthinking is that the loop isn't really happening in the part of your brain that reasons and reflects. It's happening in the part of your brain that monitors for safety. That part doesn't respond well to logic. It responds to experience, to pattern, to the felt sense that things are okay. You can intellectually know that you're safe, that the email doesn't matter, that the decision isn't life or death, and still feel the loop running. That gap between knowing and feeling is real, and it's not a personal failing. If you've ever noticed that you understand something logically but still feel stuck in the same pattern, that's actually one of the most common experiences I hear about. I made a longer video that goes deeper into why insight alone doesn't always create change. I'll leave that linked below if you want to explore it. So, what do you do with all of this? You start by shifting the question. Instead of how do I stop this, you ask, what is this trying to protect me from right now? Not as a way to feed the loop more material, but as a way to bring some gentleness to what's happening. When you can recognize that your mind is looping because it's trying to keep you safe, even if there's nothing to be saved from in this moment, something shifts. The self-criticism softens, the frustration loosens a little. You're not fighting a flaw, you're working with a pattern. You might feel like this is just reframing the problem without actually solving it, I hear that. But there's something important that happens when you stop treating your own mind like the enemy. Most people who struggle with overthinking also struggle with a quiet but persistent inner narrative that says something like, "Why can't I just be normal?" Or, "I hate that I'm like this." And that layer of self-judgment, it actually keeps the nervous system more activated. It adds another signal that something is wrong, which keeps the loop going. Compassion isn't just a nice idea here. It's functionally useful. The other thing worth knowing is this: your mind is not trying to torture you. It's trying to give you certainty in a world that doesn't offer much of it. Overthinking is, at its core, a hunger for resolution, for the feeling that everything is figured out and therefore safe. And one of the quieter truths about that is, that feeling can never fully be delivered by thinking. No amount of mental rehearsal actually creates the safety the mind is looking for. The safety comes from somewhere else, from a regulated nervous system, from accumulated experience that things turn out okay, from learning slowly to tolerate uncertainty rather than analyze it into submission. That's a longer process. It doesn't happen in a video, but it starts with understanding what's actually going on. If you made it to the end of this, I want you to notice something. You probably feel at least a little less at war with your own mind right now. Not because anything changed, but because something was named. And naming things, understanding them, seeing them clearly, that's not nothing. That's actually where all real change begins. Your mind isn't working against you, it's overworking for you. And that distinction matters more than it might seem. If this kind of thinking resonates with you, the slow, careful kind that's more interested in understanding than in quick fixes, subscribing means you'll see more of it. I make videos about the mind, the nervous system, and what it actually looks like to build more calm and clarity from the inside out. And if you want to go deeper on why understanding something isn't always enough to change it, that linked video is worth your time. Take good care of yourself.